So our position, most of it, under litigation, we basically passed, correct? I mean, on the last several, I mean, we've had to table them for litigation, correct?
That's correct.
Because I was unaware of this last minute filing. I'm sorry about that, but I just found out a little bit.
If I may offer one comment,
Sure.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Gase, that rule can be appropriate in certain instances. That rule can also be used. And that's what we think this is here. They know what the precedent would be, and they think that would cause delay. And so to the extent that the rule about waiting on acting on something that there's litigation in place, we're not, unlike every other case that's come before you, we're not writing on a blank slate. The settlement agreement, the settlement correspondence is here. We've already litigated it once. And to get to this point, to bring it to the commission, they're just trying to, it's the same trick, same pony, they're just doing it again. And I think they're trying to abuse that prudential decision-making that might appropriately be exercised in some cases, but not this one. They're just trying to capitalize on the circumstance of delay. And we ask you to approve this application. It's been properly vetted. There's no rule that says you can't. And under the circumstances here, we've already been in litigation, we've settled, and now they're trying to walk that back, and we'll address that in its appropriate forum. But the type of litigation doesn't really impact, I think, the ability for this body to approve the application. And even to the extent that the body does approve it, the litigation continues after there's an approval, money damages will be able to, are recoverable. So there's no irreparable harm or reparability to any of this that would draw the commission into the litigation. We would ask that this application be approved. I think it was set to be approved, but for a delayed transmission of an email to you last meeting. And had that email not been delayed in its transmission, I believe, it seemed like there was a consensus of approval. And so we ask you to kind of go back to the table from last meeting in March and to pick up where you left off and approve the application.
Commissioners, questions, comments?
Okay, on this litigation, you say it's already been settled once, correct?
Correct.
And this is basically the merit of this last filing is the same ground of.
Yes, sir. Last time they did not want to sign documents that were they're legally obligated to sign to affect the transfer or the issuance of shares to Big Stone Farms. We sued to enforce that. To settle that suit, they specifically agreed to sign the documents to affect the transfer of the portion of ownership to Big Stone Farms. Specifically, and thankfully y'all don't have the binders that I brought last time, but specifically in that, first there's the email, and this was provided to the AG's office. There's the email where they agreed to sign any documents necessary for the transfer to Big Stone Farms. And they also entered into, as a company, entered into a unanimous written consent where they acknowledged the issuance of the shares to Big Stone Farms. So they agreed to this in a settlement. For them to try to walk that back is a breach of that settlement of the very case that we were with them before.
Just to clarify for you all, those documents were provided to you. The settlement agreement and the email communications were sent to you all the day that we received them. So those should have been forwarded on. They were, I think, uploaded in the link that you all have to access those documents. So those were forwarded to you. The amended operating agreement that was signed in conjunction with that settlement or that consent agreement was already in your packets that you had received previously.
Commissioners, any more questions? Commissioner Thomas, Commissioner Poole.
I have no question.
What are you going to recommend?
I'll make a motion, we table, transfer of ownership 290.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to table, permit 290 until next time.
Commissioner Miller, before we just have
Yes,
a
sir.
question.
Uh,
In the beginning, wasn't it said that our council recommend that we table this until the?
Commissioner Thomas, we can barely hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
Now we can.
Okay, yeah, I was just asking, in the beginning, wasn't it recommended for us to, table this until, I guess the legal proceedings took place?
Yes, until the legal proceedings are resolved. That's.
Okay.
My understanding is the motion is to table, permit 290 until there's a legal resolution.
Okay. Being that the case, then, if there's a motion, I'll second.
Yes, there is a motion on the table.
I'll second that motion.
He said he seconded the motion. Okay. All right, we have a motion on the table and a second to table permit 290. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. No. All right, the permit 290 has been tabled until there's a resolution from the courts.
Did Commissioner Stoll vote? I didn't hear.
Mr. Poole, did you vote on the last
Sorry,
one?
no, I voted no.
Okay, so it's 3-2. All right, next item on the agenda is a transfer of ownership permit 277.
That's correct. ABC looked at the background checks and the sales tax clearance for permit number 277, Good Day Farm Cantrell, and found no issues with those.
Commissioners, any questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
We have not completed our review. As you know from your own review of the documents, they are voluminous and it is a complex transaction. So I don't have a recommendation at this time.
Okay. Staff, do you have a recommendation?
I can toss it over to Chip and see if he did much investigation on the suitability. I believe he typically just looks at background and sales tax, but if you'd like to speak to the actual transaction.
That the standard part of ABC vetting is to look for background checks, sales tax, proof of sales tax clearance, also proof of residency, proof of date of birth, name, so driver's license, social. There was no issues that we found in the vetting that, but our review does not delve into like the business aspects of it, whether or not the transaction in and of itself is legal or operating agreements, whether or not there's any issues with any of that or anything else. But in terms of just suitability, ABC has no issues with suitability of this new owners. They've been vetted, no issues there.
Dominic from Good Days, speaking for Commissioner Poole and Commissioner Thomas.
I'm so sorry. Can you repeat that, please? I could barely hear that.
Yes, Dominic, I wouldn't say your last name, but I can.
This is Dominic DeShiel from the Rose Law Firm, here on behalf of licensee 277.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments for Mr. DeShiel?
No question.
Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve permit, the transfer of ownership of permit 277.
Second.
We have a motion on the table and a second to approve, permit 277. All in favor, say aye.
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 The transfer of ownership of permit 277 has been approved. Let's move down to permit 281, Good Day Farm, Hensley. Wait,
Yes, on permit 281, we do have Good Day Farm Hensley, which was also a transfer of ownership request. ABC does check for background and sales tax clearance issues. There was one individual who, when we opened the file for the background check, I just believe they didn't attach what they needed to, and we didn't have the information to complete the vetting of her. However, it's my understanding that in the past, we've done kind of like a conditional approval where you guys can approve it, and if they submit the background check and it meets the requirements, then ABC would have no problem at that time with the condition being met, the approval going forward.
so it's just a fingerprint, nothing further.
I believe it was just fingerprints issue.
That's correct. The FBI results were not transmitted. I think there was an issue between MyScan and state police, so not Mr. DeShields' fault. They just had some glitch in the system that didn't get the FBI results to us.
Council, do you have a position on this?
So on this one, this is also a very complex transfer of ownership, just like the other ones. We, in 14 days, do not have sufficient time to dissect the various types of shares that the LLCs are holding to verify within confidence to provide you a legal advice that they are still 60% in-state ownership, because they have Class A, B, and C different types of shares with different rights given to them by their shares, just like the last one. And so therefore, we need additional time if you are seeking our advice as to whether or not they're going to be compliant with the rules. Based upon our review, we need additional time. The 14 days just isn't sufficient. Additionally, the rules require you to be assured that they can hold that permit, which includes having an approved acceptable background check, and that you do not have before you at this point for one of the owners. But irrespective of that, we still cannot verify, just as on the last one, that they are 60% Arkansas owned, based upon we're looking at the complex transactional actions that are being taken on these with each different LLC and the ownerships. And we have a one company owning that's owned by another company that's then owned by potential individuals, as well as multiple other LLCs that are owned by individuals. And we are trying to dissect those for multiple ownership transfers.
If I may.
Sure, go ahead.
So I totally agree with the AG's office. These are complex transactions. That said, we complied with the submission requirement that these documents be submitted, 14 days before the meeting. We did satisfy that requirement. With respect to the background check, Mr. Leibovich is correct. There's one investor who does not have background check results as of right now. Her name is Lauren McClemens, and that's that. The reason she does not have her background check results are because state police lost her fingerprint cards. They were submitted to state police on November 17th. We found out Tuesday morning that her fingerprints did not go through. And we've been working urgently since Tuesday morning to try to get those to you. We expect new fingerprint cards to be received by state police tomorrow. And so hopefully by early next week, that background check result should come back. And so to Director Bjornson's point about a conditional approval, that is what we would request that you approve this transfer conditioned upon receipt of clear background check results for the one investor. And there is precedent, to my understanding, the commission has done that in the past.
We have done that in the past, and it was your firm that did not follow up. But I mean, all of this is public, so.
Yeah, no, understood.
Anyway, okay. Before we get to that, commissioners, I want to go ahead and make a motion that, and I'm kind of bouncing around. I want to make a motion to where, let's say, we're going to start this in June. So everyone has to turn in all of their documents the meeting before the next meeting. Like I say, if in a perfect world like today, everybody has to turn in their documents today for the May meeting. So for May 16th, everybody has to turn in all your documents May 16th for the June 13th meeting. So that way that we get a full 30-ish days, before we actually hear it. And that gives everybody more time to look at it, because I know your documents are really complicated and heavy volume and all of that. And would that be something okay with staff and council?
If I could, in support of this motion, ABC would very much appreciate an extended submission deadline. It sounds like maybe the Attorney General's office would support us in that as well. To Julie's point, and Dorley's point, some of these transactions are just complicated, and we get binders full of paperwork. And so, not to mention background issues, we rely on state police and coordination with other agencies to get that information to CHIP in a timely fashion. So we have had some issues with the 2-week, 14-day deadline. So if you want to set it at 30 days, we would support that. If you want to set it at the meeting before, just to kind of keep it clean and easy, y'all can bring your submissions here for the next month. However you want to do that, but I think it would greatly help both ABC and likely the Attorney General's office.
So it basically gives you guys another, or 2 weeks shorter time. It's all the same, but it just gives everybody more time to look at it. So what would, I guess my motion be, I have a motion to back up the submission time to the previous meeting.
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the table and a second to back up the submission time to the previous meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that's not good. Now let's go back to permit 281. Commissioners, any questions, comments? Do we want to, what's basically the discussion on the floor is, do we want to grant a conditional license until they get their stuff in? We may add into the conditional license when the AG gets through reviewing, and however long it takes. We could do that too. What do you think the time frame is on finishing the review?
Well, on this instance, we were reviewing 4 additional transfer of ownerships, of which Good Day Farms one had approximately 60 new owners being brought in, with another one having approximately 40 owners brought in. So that takes a lot of time. I don't know, Julie may be able to clarify which one this one is, whether this is the 40 or the 60 individuals, but I would have to caution the commission that granting this this is over 60 or approximately 60.
Beneficially owned by 90 individuals, but membership-wise, as far as membership in the LLC, about 40 to 50. That's correct.
Okay. Well, let's. I'm going to make a motion on this. Let's make a motion to table this to the May 16th meeting.
If I could, Chairman Miller, apologies to interrupt. I have a concern with tabling this until the May meeting, namely because renewals will be heard at the May meeting. And the idea of having a large ownership transfer pending at the same time that renewals is pending concerns me. I don't know whether our renewal should be submitted with respect to the existing ownership, with respect to the ownership that may or may not be approved at the May meeting. And so for that reason, I would request that we have a vote on this today. And I would request a conditional approval pending receipt of the background check. I just don't like the idea of having an ownership change pending at the same time.
Commission, we have had in the past, you all have had situations where we have had renewals be submitted, and there are renewals of the existing ownership category, and then subsequently to that renewal being submitted, they have submitted changes of ownership, and historically, the commission has heard the renewal first at that meeting and then followed it with the ownership change so that there was no negative impact to that renewal application. It is the application of the existing owners at the time it is filed, and then the change in ownership was heard and passed. That has been something that has historically been done for renewals in the last couple of years.
Is there an official motion to move this to the May 16th?
I didn't complete my motion, so apologies for that. Commissioners, do you have any questions, comments?
And if I could, one more thing, Chairman Miller, I understand the complex structure of the transaction. If it would be helpful for the commission, I'd be happy to walk through. I actually brought some handouts I could give to you guys and provide to the AG's office and
I'd
ABC
love to.
to walk through the transaction structure. Would that be helpful?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Apologize to those online.
Okay.
So if you take a look at the first page here, this is kind of a timeline of the transaction, running back from June of 23 until now. So in September of 2023, this commission approved issuance of license 281 to Native Acquisition Company LLC. That is the licensed entity. At the time of approval, Native Acquisition Company LLC was a sole member LLC. As part of the transaction to purchase that license, Native Acquisition Company entered into a convertible promissory note loan agreement and convertible promissory note with Saltwater Investment Company. And pursuant to that note, Saltwater Investment Company retained the right to convert the debt owed to it by the licensee into 100% of the equity of licensee. And the transaction that is before you is to approve that conversion of debt into equity. And so to the point about there being 60 investors plus, those are the members of Saltwater Investment Company who will become beneficial owners of the licensee by virtue of that conversion.
So question, any of those 60 members, are they members in any other cultivation? So, I mean, I'm sorry, dispensary?
They're not.
We've not finished the vetting of this, so, I mean, I can't answer that question here today. I'd have to rely upon council's representation.
There are not any individual investors in this entity who also own an interest in the dispensary. And I understand there are a lot of documents and we presented a lot. We do that in spirit of full transparency to the effect that you guys would like us to present things differently in the future. We're happy to present things however they need to be presented. I think that's kind of a moving target. And we're happy to present it however it needs to be.
Well, one thing that I wanted to request is the documentation is so heavy. Yes, I want you to turn in, I mean, this is just me. I want you to turn in everything, but I also want you to do like a cover sheet of what you guys are doing, like something like this. But with council and staff, I'm looking to table it, and I'm sorry, but until we get everything, in, until they sign off on it.
I respect the commission's, opinion on this, so.
Well, that's just my opinion. We have four others. I mean, this is up for discussion, so, commissioners, what do you think? I agree.
I'm inclined to table it until the 16th meeting as well, just so we know that, you know, due diligence was done on AG's office end and everyone's done the vetting.
I know that that's, you know, that mess with renewals. Like on the process as far as like when we do the renewals, would we need to hear this one first? You know, and then, well, I don't know how that part.
I think it is a fair point that it does lend itself to a little bit of confusion and complication, given that there's a transfer of ownership being discussed and voted on at the same time as a renewal. But I think to Ms. Chandler's point earlier, previously, it has been done where the renewal's taken up first.
So renewals will take first, then this will come right after that. That way it's claimed we did the renewal, you know, for the next year and then do just like a brand new transfer of ownership.
Right, the renewal is a renewal of the existing license.
Right.
So if you take up the existing license first and then take up the transfer of ownership, you will renew that existing license and then you will grant a transfer.
I see.
The same day.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion that we table it until the May 16th meeting. Second. We have a motion on the table and a second to move this to May 16th meeting, and all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, permit 281 has been tabled until May 16th.
Thank you, commissioners.
All right, next item on the agenda is permit 11, and my understanding it's been removed.
That is correct. ABC received correspondence from the requester who had it added to the agenda and asked that it was withdrawn.
Okay, and then, so permit 11 has been withdrawn, so we do not need to vote on that. Next item on the agenda is permit 158.
On permit 158, that's the Enlightened Morrilton Dispensary. In this matter, I do believe ABC looked at some documents in regards to background and sales tax with no issues as far as the transfer of ownership. However, the documentation that was reviewed by ABC prior to today's date showed that the agreement on Enlightened Morrilton was contingent on permit number 11's approval by the MMC. So it is ABC's position that because permit number 11 has been removed from the agenda and therefore not approved by MMC, based on the paperwork we had previously received, we cannot move forward on the Enlightened Morrilton agreement. However, I believe earlier today, there was an amended agreement transferred to Chip, our staff attorney at ABC, and I believe also sent to the AG's office. So I will say that there is a question as to whether the previous paperwork matches or what is different in the paperwork that we just received today. However, I don't think it would be incredibly prudent for the commission to vote on an issue that when we just received paperwork today and you guys haven't had time to review.
Commissioners, I say that we remove this item from the agenda and then basically they start over, you know.
And I need to point out,
down and then just if they want to start over. Okay.
and I'd like to point out too, Mr. Lidwich just reminded me that there was actually one background check that we were missing on that one as well. So of the ones we received, we had no issues, but there actually was one where we didn't receive on that one. So I do think it would be prudent to be tabled today.
It's better to table it or just start over since
So
it's.
commission, if you all deny this change of ownership today, you will have to make a basis on that denial. Why you deny that, we'll issue a letter and they will have an opportunity to request a hearing and go in front of the full board for a formal APA hearing.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion that we table permit 158 do we want to table to the 16th or just table to whenever?
I would say that it would just be tabled until they provide ABC and the AG's office with the final documentation needed.
Right, because they need to turn it in 2 weeks ahead of time.
So
Well,
if they get it in time for the May 16th meeting, sure. If not, June is fine. So whenever they have it available to us to review.
okay. Is there anybody here from, what? Go ahead.
Yes, Chairman Miller, I am. I'm Ray Green. I'm here on behalf of Worlds and Opportunities. We're okay with tabling it. I do believe that the documentation that we submitted today could be quickly read and ascertained, and that the purpose of the amendment to the contract was to make this contract, One Moralton Opportunity, stand alone and be independent of any other transaction regarding any other permit that's regulated by the commission. And so and it was our intent to separate these. It did come late, I will agree, but we also did not know the impact of the other applicant withdrawing their application until yesterday. We took quick action to try to balance where did that leave us in our transaction? And we, at that point, because of other things matter relating to that application, we just wanted to be totally separate from that. If the agent's office or the ABC, the commission needs more time to look at the matter, we fully understand that. We would prefer to be tabled rather than denied, but we'll be willing to supplement our record. However, I do believe all the documents are with you all, that we'll confirm that when we get back to it.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion that we table permit 158 until the May 16th meeting.
I second the motion.
We have a motion on the table and a second to table permit 158 until May 16th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, permit 158 has been tabled. Okay, next thing on the agenda is administrative matters. We want to discuss rule changes. There are 2 rule changes that wanted to basically just throw out there, and one's on the processor. Where are we on the processor rule?
So at the last meeting, you guys asked us to look into what a processor rule might look like. We have started to do that. We've heard some feedback from the industry, and we're working on drafting that. However, it's going to need to move through up the channels of DFA and then over to the governor's office before any real movement on that. I will also say that ABC has been looking into and working on some rules concerning management agreements. So heads up on that one. However, that will go through the formal process as well with comment period and everything, just like any other rules.
On the rules on the management companies, when will we discuss them, or we're going to try to discuss them at the May meeting, or we're going to?
To be honest, I don't know if there will be one time at the May meeting or 2 if they will have moved up through DFA's levels of approval at that point or not. But we are hoping to do that sooner rather than later. I don't want to overpromise on May, but hopefully.
Okay. So commissioners, basically what you're saying is the process, they're going to be drafting the rules, talking to DFA and the governor's office. Then you guys will present them to us or talk to us about them after that.
Sorry, I keep forgetting the mic. Yeah, when we have the appropriate time to bring them in front of y'all, we'll have drafts for you at that point, and then on to ALC.
All right. Okay. So those are the only 2 things, looking at management companies and processors.
Correct, as far as rule promulgation. The only other thing was the request for the submission deadline, which we took up in something else.
Okay. So we've gotten that. I did have one thing that I wanted to ask the AG's office. Is there any movement on any of the cases that we have, like 1,800 holdings, the 2 dispensaries down in South Arkansas?
We can ask the civil division to come give you an update at the next meeting if you'd like.
Yeah, just a quick update on what's going on. Because, whenever, like I'll pick up the newspaper and I'll see that, hey, there's a lawsuit against marijuana, and don't know if it's don't know if it's us or if it's, civil, in between two individuals. Like, I think there was one filed this week that I read in the newspaper, but
Well, so if there is one filed involving the commission, then you will also be served with it, so.
that's
You
fair.
will
That's fair.
become aware of it very quickly. But yes, I can have someone from the civil division. We don't exchange that information, so I can have someone from the civil division come and address the commission next month.
Yeah, just tell them it won't take long, just 5 minutes, just give us top lines. The next item that we have is setting the July meeting. How's everybody with, July 11th? 3 o'clock?
I may be out of town, but I mean, I could possibly dial in.
I'm sorry, 3:30. Change it. I'm sorry, 3:30, July 11th.
On July 11th, I may be out of the state, but I could possibly dial in.
Okay. It's okay to just put it tentative. I know that that's a pretty good ways out, so.
And I will point out too that we do have the May 16th meeting already scheduled. We also have June 13th scheduled, and we did bump that one up to 3 o'clock just in case it was heavy in the middle of renewal season.
Okay. Commissioners, any comments, questions?
Commissioner Miller, I will let you know that the 16th of May, I will be attending the conference in Atlanta. If I can jump on the call, I will, but right now I don't know that schedule. But I do know I'll be traveling during that time.
Okay. Well, let us know in the next couple weeks what your time frame looks like. And we may have to adjust because that meeting will be pretty big because it's renewals.
Yeah, that is, turning myself off. Okay, that is during renewal season, so it could be a little bit lengthier. However, as long as we have a quorum, we should still be able to handle business.
Okay. All right. No other questions, comments? Seeing none, meeting's adjourned.
This conference is no longer being recorded.